Hey bitches, it's Bunny and welcome to my channel. So I'm up pretty early this morning. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning and I thought, what a better time to have a wake and bake and film a little get high with me. While we're waking and baking, I thought, what a better time to just have a story time. Just put it all together into one and we can just have a little story time while we're waking and baking. Of course, since we are waking and baking, or at least I'm waking and baking, make sure you're 18. No underage smoking, bitch. Go to school. Focus on your education, then smoke all you want to. I'm a grown adult. I'm a grown bitch. So I'm allowed to smoke. I'm 19, going on 20. If you're underage though, do not smoke. I'm sure you could tell by the title of this video what this is already going to be about. It is a funny story and honestly, I just thought why not just tell it, because it's so fucking weird and odd and out there that I just felt like I needed to share it. So if you would like to stay and hear about that crazy ass story, make sure you keep on watching. Also, make sure that while you're here, you do subscribe to my channel. I mean, why not? You're already here. And then follow all the social media links in the drop box down below so you can keep up with me. And without any further ado, grab you a blunt, grab you a bowl. If you like papers, you know, get you what you need, and let's get right into it. The beginning of the story starts back in 7th grade when I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, OCD, ADHD, and a couple other random things here and there. And I'm really open about that. I have no shame about talking about mental illness. I've had mental illness. I struggle with mental illness. I still struggle with mental illness now. In 7th grade, I was admitted to Rosecrans, and that is where I got my counselor. If you don't know what Rosecrans are, if you're not from like the Illinois area, or I'm not even sure if they're all around Illinois, but if you are not from here, Rosecrans is pretty much a treatment center where you go to get treatment pretty much. And I was a part of the treatment center that's called the Berry Campus. That's pretty much where they keep underage people that struggle with depression and stuff like that and need counseling, pretty much need therapy. So I know this is kind of weird, but I'm gonna have to take my lipstick off, you guys, because as everyone knows, you can't smoke and have lipstick at the same time, and if you do, that's kind of gross and you should probably get help for that. That's why I'm going from lipstick and I'm about to be without lipstick. So yeah, I was admitted into therapy in 8th grade after I had been with Rosecrans in 7th grade, and I had a counselor and her name was Margaret. We met once a week for almost 3 years, probably actually a little over 3 years. And I just think it's important to note before we even get too deep into this that Margaret was about 39 years old and she also was from Czechoslovakia. She wasn't from here, she actually transferred from her college. Throughout the last year of me and Margaret meeting, we started meeting up at a pie shop just because pie was her favorite dessert. I mean, I never really liked pie, but it was her favorite dessert and I loved meeting up with her at the time. So I pretty much did whatever she wanted to do. So we started meeting up pretty frequently at this pie shop. So about a half a year into Margaret and me meeting with each other, she started rescheduling her appointments with me about every other week. It went from being very frequently to about twice a month. She did explain to me that she had to keep on rescheduling our appointments just because she did have a patient that was in juvenile detentions and she did have to keep on skipping our sessions so that he could go meet with him. And if you don't know about like Rosecrans or treatment centers here and where I'm from, you pretty much, there's like a top priority person and a bottom priority person. So pretty much whoever is in the most of an emergency situation is who the counselors have to see first legally. They have to see that person above me. So I never really got too into it. Like it wasn't a big deal to me that she kept on rescheduling. I understood that obviously some people are in more dangerous situations than I'm in. At this point in my life, I was pretty stable, actually 100% stable. So I didn't have any problems with her missing as long as she was explaining to me that we were gonna be missed. She never told me anything about the person she was going to meet at juvenile detention. I just knew that obviously he was a juvenile because he was in juvenile detentions, and I knew that he was underage and I knew that he was a boy because while we were talking she did say he, so obviously I'm gonna assume it's a boy. Things went on like that for quite a while. We still continue to see each other on like a semi-regular basis. So eventually she had stopped missing her appointments with me so often, and there was this one time in particular that we were at the pie shop where we always go at, and we were having a regular session, you know, talking back and forth. If you know how therapy goes, it's pretty much like, oh, how are you feeling today? And you're like, I'm doing good, thanks. Like that kind of stuff. So we were doing that back and forth and she had handed me her phone trying to get me to like read this something, trying to get me to read something. A name popped up and it was by a boy. And I'm like, oh shit, none of my business. Pass that bitch back. Me and Margaret were pretty close, and I mean, we knew each other for 3 years, so we did get pretty close. We became kind of like friends in a way, even though that wasn't allowed. So we did kind of break the rules on occasions just because we did become so close. We were definitely a lot closer than you should be with any of your patients. And one time outside of our regular session schedule, she had called me crying and said that she needed someone to talk to. And I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I knew that we weren't supposed to, but it was my friend. So I'm like, I'm not gonna let her sit there and be upset. I didn't know what I was going to meet her for or why she was upset or why she was crying. All I knew is that she was having like a mental breakdown. And I was like, okay girl, like I can talk to you, like come talk to me. So we met at the pie shop again, and she had told me, hey, I'm having a rough time in my relationship. And this was like shocked to me because I was like, for one, I didn't know she was in a relationship, and for two, she's not supposed to be telling me that kind of stuff. We were close, yes, but we never talked about her personal life or anything like that. I just tried to be there for her in any way that I could, but at the same time I didn't really know how because, you know, she's triple my age. So it's like I was trying to be there for her, but I didn't really know how to be there for her. After the conversation was over, I ended up walking her back to the car, and I remember specifically I had opened up the car door because I was gonna get in the car with her for a second. We were gonna talk about some stuff in private, and a freaking pile of smoke like whacks me in my face. I'm like, what the fuck? And I don't mean any kind of smoke. It was like weed. If you smoke weed, you know what weed smells like. If you don't smoke weed, you even know what weed smells like. It has a very distinct aroma of just happiness and beautiful and equality for everybody, and rainbows and everything. I would imagine heaven to smell like.
You're rubbing cannabis lotion on my cock. I like smoking pot.
I smelled weed in her car, and I was like, okay, where I'm from, weed is not legal yet. It's only legal for medicinal reasons and only like chronically fatal medicinal reasons. If you have anxiety, for example, or depression, you can't get a medical card here. You have to have like something that's like chronic. Well, I don't even know what, like fatal, pretty much, like you're gonna die. Like you have to have something like that to get it. So I was pretty surprised when she opened her door and I smelled straight bag. I was like, okay, is my therapist blowing bag or what's going on? I want to smoke. That day went past, whatever, another week goes past. I met up at the pie shop, same damn thing, sitting there talking, and then a boy walks in behind us and he slides her a phone. This boy looked about 16, 17 years oldish, and he just came in and slid her a phone. On her face, she looked pissed as fuck. I thought that maybe he had dropped her phone off to her, but I know that he was a young black male in the 15, 16 range. And then the next week after that, we went to the same spot again, and that same young boy that had dropped the phone off to her was sitting in her car, and then she introduced us and she was like, hey, this is Jack, he's also one of my patients. I also do him counseling. He got kicked out of his house, and so I told him he could come to the session with me as long as he stayed in the car. We went inside, he stayed in the car, and then we didn't talk again until the next time we met. Then when we went inside and did the session, Margaret began explaining to me how they often went and did like fun stuff around town and stuff like that. And she was like, do you want to go to like Volcano Falls with us next week? And I was like, okay, sure. For one, it counts as one of my sessions, and for two, it's Volcano Falls. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. When we go to Volcano Falls, we all ride in the same car, and we exchanged phone numbers, and we were kicking it. We were really cool. It was like a little awkward, but they weren't being super friendly. To me, they looked like just how I looked with my counselor, just normal, and that's it. Like I didn't tell it there was something else there at that point. Me and Jack ended up continue texting after that session with Margaret was even over. I got pretty close, like friend-wise, nothing other than friend-wise, just friend-wise. And he had told me that he really didn't want me to tell Margaret anything that he was telling me, just because obviously he doesn't want her to know all of his personal business. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. Like, I don't want my counselor to know all of my personal business either. We had an understanding that I'm gonna really say anything about him. I mean, she knows we're friends, but I wasn't gonna go in depth or talk about him to her, and vice versa. He wasn't gonna say nothing that I said to him to her. A couple months went by. Me and Jack were still like texting back and forth, like we were seeing each other. And then at one point, Margaret started missing her sessions with me, and I couldn't get a hold of her, texting her phone over and over and over again, trying to get her to answer, and I got nothing. I ended up texting Jack and I was like, hey, like, have you heard from Margaret? She keeps on missing our sessions. Has she been missing your sessions? What's going on? And he pretty much like told me, no, I haven't really heard from her. I haven't really been going to the sessions, so I'm not really sure where she's at. Usually I wouldn't care, but if you don't know how like the treatment center works, if you miss a certain amount of sessions, you get dropped from the treatment completely. So if you missed over 8 sessions with a counselor, you got dropped, no matter if it was your fault or if it was a counselor's fault. She kept on missing session after session, so it was making me nervous because I obviously didn't want to get dropped from the treatment, because that's how I got prescribed my medication. At this point, it's been weeks and weeks and weeks and she's still missing. Jack ends up calling me and he's like, hey, can you come get me from these apartments? So I pull up to these apartments, right? I park outside. I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for this nigga to come outside, and I'm like, these apartments are overly nice. Like, I've hung out with Jack before and I know he was not cut from them apartments. Jack comes out and I'm like, boy, whose apartments are these? Like, I know you don't live here. Like, what are you doing? And he pretty much tells me, he just spills the tea. He's like, oh, well, this is Margaret's house. He's been letting me stay here and we've been hooking up since when I was in Juvi. I was like, nigga, what? What do you mean you've been hooking up with her since Juvi? Obviously, juvenile, Juvi. He was 16, so I was like, how? He pretty much told me she would come see me like she was coming to give me counseling, but really during the sessions they would just have sex in the juvenile detention center. She was missing my appointments to go to dick appointments. So, I mean, same, but like, really? And then he said once they got out, they just continued to see each other, and he still was considered one of her patients even after he got out, so she still was technically his counselor. But they continued seeing each other. They continued having sex, if a 40-year-old and a 16-year-old. And then he told me, yeah, I take her counseling money because the counselors in my town, they get like counseling cards and stuff, and they get preloaded with money from the state, and they'll take kids out to do stuff, and they have like a prerequisited amount of money put into the account every month, and that's all they have for the whole month. So money that's supposed to go to her actual patients to take them out and do stuff with them, she's been giving to him, and he's like $500, $1,000, all this, like I've been getting that from her every month. And I'm like, what? He was just like, yeah, she's good at having sex, I hit it from the back, and I'm just like, and then he's like, but I mean, I like her, I just pretty much want her as a sugar mama though. Okay, that's wonderful. That's so great. That's so great that you want to be with your counselor. That's so great. You want to be with your 40-year-old counselor. I told him, like, don't you think you could do like better? Don't you think you like get something better than like someone that's like maybe in their 20s, or someone that's your age maybe? Okay, go best friend, that's my best friend. So it turns out she ended up quitting her job because the government started investigating her for having sex with patients in juvenile detention. So she quit before she got fired. That's why she abruptly stopped seeing me, and pretty much my counselor ended up being my best friend's sugar mama. And yeah, that's pretty much that's the story. That's the story, and yeah. Alrighty, my loves, so that's the end of the story. Thank you guys so much for sitting here and listening to my story and getting high with me. Leave me a comment down below and tell me about any crazy stories that you may have had in the past or have experienced with very odd people. And then make sure you leave me some love and hit that thumbs up button before you leave, and then hit that sub button down below and become part of the family. I post new videos every Sunday, and I'm trying to post more, so I'm getting better. I'm getting there. I'm getting there, so bear with me. I love you guys so much. My little family means the absolute world to me, and I'm so grateful that I get to sit here and get high with you and talk to you, and I'm just the happiest little girl in the world. And I am so grateful for all of you. Have a blessed day, my loves.